Thank you very much for tuning in to another episode with Maurice Anderson from Royal LePage Signature Realty. And I have my good friend here today, Steve Balgobind, who's a mortgage broker, and he'll be able to tell you everything you need to know and all the questions that you may have, and ones that I may not even ask him today. He can let you know more about what we're going to discuss. So, Steve, if you can tell anybody who doesn't know who you are you, how long have you been in the business?
So I am a mortgage broker. I have been in the business for 4 years now. I love everything about real estate. I watched it superficially from afar in my previous career. Casual investor, and I said I had to make a career change, which was about 4 years ago. And then I said, I love everything real estate. Why don't I be a mortgage broker? So here I am.
I mean, it's definitely a good way to get into the business because you already had the interest, like you mentioned. It's one of the, especially in today's market, it's one of the most important assets to make sure you can have generational wealth and, possibly even make money in your sleep. If you disagree or you agree.
You know what? I totally agree. As a matter of fact, listen, one of the slogans that I have is, what's your goal in life? And let's get in it. So the reality is everybody is talking about real estate. Everybody loves real estate, talks about real estate, wants real estate. Everybody wants their home. And so, as time has gone on, it's become harder and harder.
Very hard. Especially the last 2 years, right?
Well, especially the pandemic's totally changed. But even if we took the pandemic out of the equation, it's the financing portion of real estate is quite honestly the most important part.
Yeah.
Because the wish is always there, but if you don't really have the plan or the financial lenders that will lend you, then it's just not going to happen. So that's essentially why working with a broker is so important, because whether you want to buy your first home or whether you want to buy your fifth or 10th or 15th investment property, you need to have that partner working alongside you.
Yeah.
And that's really what I love about this job.
That's true. I mean, with that being said, we do have some people who haven't purchased a property before.
Yeah.
And some that are a lot more experienced. One of the keywords you mentioned is a broker. So what is the difference really between a broker and, say, somebody who wants to go into a bank and try to get a mortgage that way?
Yeah. So when you go to the bank has their 3 or 4 or whatever lending products that they have in their bag.
Okay.
But when you go to a mortgage broker like myself, or the many ones out there, they have multiple lenders and different lenders for different reasons, right? So as I mentioned, we have some lenders that would literally love to lend those investors that have multiple properties.
Yeah.
We have some lenders that kind of specialize in those individuals that have poor credit but want to get into the market.
Okay.
And so we have some people that just want to buy land or, apartment buildings. Whatever the case is, there's a lender for that specific person through a broker. But when you go to the bank, the bank only has whatever's in their bag of tricks. And that's it.
Okay.
So
I guess it would be more so of a conflict of interest if they have more than one type of option, if it's not already within their institution. And that's where you would come in, because you're able to tap into multiple facets.
Well, that's exactly it, right? So, the bank has their lending restrictions.
Okay.
And as a matter of fact, we actually get we partner up with a lot of banks because they're only able to do so much.
That's true.
On certain files. So
okay. So with that being said, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, a home would be classified as a tangible asset. And there's tangible and intangible assets. Is a home a tangible asset, or is it not?
What is the definition of an asset? An asset is really something that has economic value currently or economic value in the future. And that can generate you cash currently, or that can generate you cash long term in the future. So to that definition, is a home an asset? No.
Okay.
And in my opinion, no.
Okay.
Because all I know is that I just spent $1,000 on flowers for my home that I'm not going to get any benefit out of, other than when my wife rolls into the driveway she's happy. You know, you have your property tax. That's a big expense. You've got maintenance on a home, which is a massive expense. You've got furniture and decor and repairs. Like, all of these things are out-of-pocket expenses that you just don't get back. The house is not paying you rent for any of that stuff. So to me, a house is a debt. A house is not an asset.
Okay, so but it would be a good debt.
It's an exceptionally good debt.
Okay.
If you want to use it properly.
Okay, and that's what you're here for, so we could educate anybody who's watching. But you did mention that a home also takes a lot of expenses out of your own pocket.
Yeah.
So is there any way that a home could pay you, figuratively speaking, per month?
It absolutely can. Okay. So in the last, we talk about the pandemic, but even in the last, we take 5 years. If anybody has owned a home for 5 years, they have made tons of money. They literally have won a lottery. And they've got a lottery ticket sitting, and it's called their home.
Yeah.
But the lottery ticket is only as good as if you cash it. So that's why I say, if you are able to refinance your home,
okay,
and then go purchase an investment property where that investment property now is bringing you in money.
Yeah.
You've used your home, you've leveraged your home to create money now, to create another asset that's bringing you value, bringing you money in. So that to me is where I see benefit to the house.
Okay, so what 6 main things would you recommend a homeowner to consider if they were going to go that route? Or a couple of main things if you don't have, 6.
Yeah, so like, the big thing is if you have a house, refinancing the house is first and foremost the easiest thing.
Okay.
But if you want to keep it a little bit more simple, if you have a house and you have a basement and it's unfinished, make a basement, make a basement apartment. You can generate an easy $1,000, $1,500, sometimes even $2,000, depending on the basement, if you created that basement apartment. There are different ways to use your house. You can, a little bit more advanced of a strategy is private lending. Refinance your house, take that money and lend it out at a higher interest rate, which is a little bit more of an advanced strategy. But there's several ways.
Okay. So if somebody was to take money out of their own home, are they potentially taxed on that? I know you're not a tax professional, but
no.
They're not
So
taxed on
the
it.
short answer is no.
Okay.
So when you refinance your house, you are not taxed on that money. So I don't know what it's like in the States, but up here it's not.
So with that being said, that's clearly one of my favorite words. With that being said, but it's not taxable when you take money out. You have different avenues to invest that money. So what other potential options would they have if they're going to take money out as a private lender, which is more advanced, or refinance to renovate? Is there any other options that they would have to reinvest that money?
Yeah, the big one is for that investment property, right? If they wanted to buy that investment property, or even pre-construction is a great option as well. Yeah. I love the pre-construction model because, you could take that money, use it as your deposit, and just watch that condo or townhouse or whatever the property is just appreciate. And you see it because you see it on the on the second release, you see it's gone up by $20,000, $30,000. So automatically you've just made, exponential money on your little deposit.
It's definitely a good strategy. And with investing your money, if you already have a home, it's recommended to have at least an exit strategy. And
you know what? That's why I love real estate, because there are so many exit strategies.
That's true. So should they focus on like ROI specifically or cash flow?
So that's a tough question, because it's hard to get both, but if you can get both, that's amazing. If you're getting an ROI like the pre-construction route, you're gonna get an ROI.
Yeah.
You're buying a condo for $500, you see it appreciate to $700. There's a differential, and that's your ROI.
For sure.
Cash flow is a little bit trickier because you cannot always cash flow on a property.
That's true.
If we take the condo route, your average condo nowadays is not $500, it's, let's say, $700. The average mortgage on a $700,000 condo with 20% down at this rate, current rates, you're looking at about $2,700, not including property tax, not including your maintenance. So theoretically, can you get $2,700 for, I don't know what a standard condo is. Let's say it's a 1-bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but I know that it's going to be really hard to cash flow.
Yeah.
If not just kind of break even. But your return on investment is going up.
For sure.
Right?
That's basically guaranteed.
Yeah.
Cash flow, as he just mentioned, is not always guaranteed, but the main point is for you to get that asset, that good debt, as you mentioned before. If you purchase a condo, as he mentioned, say for easy math, $500,000, and you don't have any monthly cash flow, you still have that equity in the property, which keeps on going up year over year.
Yeah.
Because prices depreciate, and your mortgage goes down. So in that sense, the return on your investment, especially if you're there on average 5 years or so, and the typical family stays in a property between 5 or 7 years, you're almost guaranteed, especially in Canada and the way the finance system is set up, to have an appreciation that's well worth your while.
Within the last, let's say, decade, consistently go up.
Yeah.
We've seen a drop recently, but that's a blip.
Yeah.
It'll continue to go up, and I'll tell you why. We have people coming into this country year over year. During the pandemic, we increased our population by almost 200,000 just here in Ontario.
Yeah.
Okay? How many homes did we build?
Not enough.
We
Simple
built,
answer.
from my estimation, 30 to 35,000 homes. But we have 160,000 people coming into the city, into the province.
Yeah.
And that's not even including migration, because you have people from Calgary coming over here. You're always going to get that appreciation because there's so much demand.
So much demand. And the demand that we've been experiencing is all, like you said, Canada-based.
Absolutely.
No immigration coming in, not yet anyways. You have, I think Trudeau and the Liberal government mentioned there's going to be about 2 million people in the next few years coming to Canada. 40% of them are coming to Ontario. And that was even before, I don't like to talk politics typically, that was before the war started. With the Ukrainian refugees coming in, I think of about 40,000 this year alone, is going to add more to that stress that we have with the lack of housing.
Yeah.
Now, how does somebody determine their net worth, and what could they do with it really?
So it's always good to calculate your net worth, and your net worth essentially is if you were to sell everything off, what are you left with?
Okay.
Right. So it's the difference between your assets versus your liabilities. Okay. If I were to move down to Florida for whatever reason, I know I'd have X amount of dollars to come down with me. But from an investment perspective, from your home perspective, you want to know that your value on your home, your value on your investments is going in the right way versus your liabilities.
For you to figure out where it's going, right, you should at least pay attention to the market. Pay attention to where you could get your finances from to make sure you secure that asset. So you mentioned banks have their own network. As a broker, you have multiple different avenues you can go with. What is the bank really telling you secretly where you can invest your money?
Yeah, that's, I love this one because the bank is inadvertently telling you, invest in real estate, invest in real estate. And I'll tell you why, because they're telling you that because the bank will never lend you the way they lend you for real estate on, let's say you want to buy a business. Okay. You go to the bank and say, Mr. Bank, I'm opening up a business and, how much money can you give me? They're going to say, well, you own a house? I'll take all your house and put a lien against it.
That's true.
If you want to buy, say, Mr. Bank, I want to go buy some stocks. Will you lend me any money? Chances are they're going to say no, or they're going to do what's called a margin loan or call, a margin loan. But even for that, it's negligible. But go and buy some real estate. Say, Mr. Bank, I'm buying some real estate. The bank is going to say, oh, come on in. Okay. Like, if it's a $500,000 piece of property, they're going to lend you 80% of that. So the bank is telling you, buy real estate. Don't buy anything else. And come on in. I'll help you out.
So if the bank is telling you to buy real estate and you already have a property and you want to become an investor, whether it's to do an advanced investment like loan out your money or reinvest in another property, let's stick on reinvesting in another property. How many different properties can a bank, finance for you? Like, are you allowed to get?
Typically, banks don't like to lend past one or two at most.
Okay.
And that's why, many investors, especially the ones that we typically work with, don't go to a bank.
Okay. They go to a broker, right? So I did ask a couple questions to some people before we came here.
Mm-hmm.
If a buyer, a first-time home buyer, is looking for a home, would you recommend, basing the sale price on Zillow, House Sigma, or other real estate websites to determine the price of the house? It could determine the price it could sell for.
Those are great websites to get a good understanding, a foundation for really what homes are selling for and what they're listed for versus they're selling.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're selling your home, you really want to contact a real estate agent because the market changes incredibly quick,
Like
as we've seen
right now. Yeah.
Right, as we've seen. But those websites are good for what they are. I mean, they're good just to get some foundational knowledge.
That's true. I mean, you made a good point because it doesn't take into consideration all the unique features that you may have in your property. Like if it's a luxury home, they imported marble from Italy, Zillow's not going to take that into account.
No.
If you have a custom door made for your front door with imported oak wood from the Amazon rainforest, they're not going to take that into consideration.
No.
So you should recommend or at least contact a broker that you trust. It should be me. But if you don't know me, you can call somebody else. That's perfectly fine. But do you also, going back on topic, do you have any real life examples as to, the appreciation or examples as to how much the assets have increased over the past 5 years in Toronto?
This is a great question. I'll tell you my own personal story.
Even better.
So I bought my very first house just about 16, 17 years ago. And I bought my first house for $440,000. Okay. So in between that, we got a couple kids and the whole thing. And so we had to move. But we sold that house.
Okay.
Now, at the time, there was nobody like me or you around my little circle advising me to say, Steve, why don't you just keep the house, refinance the house, and then go buy that other house you want?
Yeah.
Nobody told me that. So, long story short, we come full circle to like a few weeks ago.
Yeah. Okay.
I saw my same house sold for $1.5 million.
Wow.
Now, had I had
kind of hurts your heart a little bit, huh?
Well, it shook me.
Yeah.
I told my wife. My wife was really upset. It was just really, it's heartbreaking because you need that guidance, right? If
Definitely.
somebody was guiding me, look at how much I would have been paid off. My mortgage would have been done, and I would have had $1.5 million sitting
there.
So what could I have? I could have, gone on vacation. I could have retired. I could have done so many things. Or more importantly, I could have reinvested that money.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, I was doing research for a property for a client in Scarborough, Military Trail and Nielsen area.
Yeah.
So ironically, she sent me a property that she was interested in on Military Trail. And I lived on that same block when I was growing up. And I contacted my mom to let her know. I was excited and a little bit nostalgic popped into my memory. So I asked her, why did we move? Because we used to move a lot growing up as a kid, almost every year, actually. She then told me at that time that she actually owned the property with my grandmother, but they weren't able to continue to afford the mortgage. Back then, they bought it for $198,000. It was a 3-bedroom, 3-story townhome. And right now it's worth like $850,000.
Wow.
So if they kept it, the mortgage would have been paid off for sure, kind of like
totally.
your situation.
Yeah.
And our situation definitely would have been different. But like you, she didn't have anybody around her to advise her what could be done with that good debt, that asset, right?
What you're doing here, educating sort of your base, and the fact that we now have social media, there really is no excuse for anybody to miss out on what we missed out on.
That's true.
Right? Because there's so many ways to educate yourself. Just take the tidbits of information, pick up the phone, call us, and then, that's half the battle.
And you just do what's best for you. Like, you have to think about what your circumstances are and make your judgment based on that.
Absolutely.
Right? Never be forced into a situation you're not comfortable with, because, well, you're going to end up in a situation that you don't want to be in at all.
Yeah.
At all. So let's go to the next question. You were mentioning that the market has changed, which it has changed, especially in the Peel and Durham region. Toronto, not so much because it's the core of the market, right? Appreciation rates over the past 6 months in the Peel region specifically was up 40%, which is not economically sustainable.
No.
Because the average over the course of 40 years was about 7%, right? So talking about financing, the question that I had here was, what are the rates today? They've already gone up twice in like the past month, with an expectation of it going up again in a few
June,
weeks in
June 1st, yeah.
June 1st. Where do you see the market going? Do you see it going up 50 basis points, 100 basis points? What do you see happening?
So from sort of the discussion groups that I'm on, mortgage related, the anticipation is that it's going to go up 0.5%.
0.5%, okay.
So that means that your prime lending rate will now go from 3.2 to 3.7.
Okay.
Okay. And what does that mean for the average folk? Well, if you're in a variable rate mortgage, your mortgage payment's going to change. And quite honestly, the fixed are going to go up as well. The fixed have gone up actually quite a bit. We don't talk about fixed going up, but they've gone up quite a bit as well.
So in layman's terms, for anybody who doesn't know, what is the difference really between variable and fixed?
So variable is exactly that. The definition of variable is that it is variable. It varies and it does change. So as the interest rate is changing, so does your mortgage payment. The one thing I will say with that is you can actually keep your payment static. You can actually contact your mortgage broker or mortgage advisor, and they could potentially get you into a static mortgage where the principal portion of your mortgage doesn't change, but the interest rate does change. So, your payment is essentially the same. It's just changing behind the scenes.
Would that be like an open and close option? Or
No,
is that
so
different?
open and close is different, right?
Okay.
Open means that, you could pay off that mortgage anytime. Close means you're kind of fixed to the set parameters of what the bank set out.
Okay.
From a payment standpoint. The fixed portion is exactly that. You've locked in a certain rate for a period of time, which is your term. And typically everybody's kind of organically, I don't even know how 5 years came to be, but 5 years is sort of the standard term that many go with. And right now your standard 5 years is like in and around 4%, let's say.
Okay.
I will advise this though. I think in this market where there's a lot of changes happening, I see a lot of changes happening from an interest rate perspective in the next several months to a year. We've got an interest rate hike in June.
Mm-hmm.
We've got one coming down in July. And then in the fall. So there's still a lot to come, potentially.
Yeah.
For those people that are getting in the market or renewing renewing their mortgage, maybe getting that 5-year fixed is not always the best option, but why don't you consider a lower term, maybe a 2-year term or a 3-year term?
Okay.
If you want to mitigate sort of a change in payment. But I still believe in variable. I still tell all my clients I have my own mortgage on a variable. That's just my little opinion.
Okay, so there are both options available, both open and closed for variable and fixed.
Yep.
And that just depends on which one you're most comfortable with.
Yep.
Obviously, take into consideration the change in market with the interest rates fluctuating at the moment.
Yep.
But as you mentioned, take that into consideration and think about your circumstances and ready, aim, fire with whatever you decide to go with. So, okay. With the difference between open and fixed closed variable rates, is Canada still a good place to invest in?
Canada is beyond solid. I mean, beyond solid. We have all the metrics to continue amazing growth for years to come. We still have a great economy. Our economy is rocking and rolling. Mm-hmm. We've got people still coming into the country. We've got a great education system.
Multiculturalism as well. Don't forget that. It's very important.
We've got great food.
Yep.
The metrics to continue growth are all there, right? Diversification of an economy. So we have, IT, manufacturing. Now, I heard about us becoming a hub for the new electric cars. Like, there's just so much.
Google opened up a headquarters.
Google, Shopify. Like, there's just so much. Our diversification for employment is there. So all of those metrics, people, economy, education, that's what you need to keep your economy going.
Okay, so then why is now is a good time to invest, right? But with the fluctuating rates, why is now still a good time to invest?
If I have one thing to say, if those people have been sitting on the sidelines thinking of investing, now is such a sweet time, because the market has dropped, right? We've got prices that have dropped. So things are on sale, essentially. We'll call it we've got a sale. And when things are on sale, what do you want to do?
Pounce.
You want to buy.
For sure.
Like, when I see a jacket or something on sale, I'll double up.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to do what a lot of other people are doing. For lack of a better terminology that I can't think of right now, is some of us, I've heard people call it the herd mentality, right? If other people are staying away from properties because they're worried about the market crashing, which hasn't happened since the late 80s, by the way, you definitely want to take the opportunity because you have less competition to get into the market, to get that property that you weren't able to get before. Because 2 months ago, some homes were selling for at least $200,000 more than it is today.
Yeah.
So to your point, you definitely want to start looking around now, because the opportunity may not be here as long before other people start realizing, no, you know what, maybe I should invest as well, because a lot of other people are not. And at that point, now it's too late.
We could take one specific. I have a client. He's looking at properties in Barrie, and I flipped him a couple to look at. And when you see that there's literally a $200,000 drop in price from just 2 months ago.
Yeah.
Well, if let's say he gets the property at exactly what it's listed for, that means he's just made himself $200,000 because it's gonna go up again.
For sure.
Right? Once this little period of time. So that's another thing we really should touch on, is that if you're trying to time the market, and this really goes out to those, flippers, or those that really just get in and get out, those are the guys that really got to be worried.
For sure.
The flippers right now are going to have a tough time, because the property that they wanted to flip, it's probably not going to go the way they wanted it to go. So timing the market is never a good thing.
And real estate is definitely one of the best avenues to have, as per the other videos. And if you haven't seen them, Generational Wealth with the owner of Royal LePage, Chris Lightham, Royal LePage Signature Realty, it's one of the best avenues to make sure you have equity and security for your family, your grandchildren, take some money out of your property, go on vacation like he could have done if he kept that first property. I'm not throwing shade at all. But, it's definitely an avenue you want to think
I'll cry
about.
off camera.
I mean, he is very knowledgeable, as you can tell. He's also been featured in Yahoo Finance. And if you don't know what that is, I don't know what rock you've been living under, but it's a great publication and information for you to look into. But some people also don't even realize, how do you charge for your services? Do you charge for your services? Is there a fee?
You know what? For the most part, we don't charge. We get paid by the lending institution. So to a client, there's no cost. Our services are free. The only time we actually take a little fee is if it is a private mortgage of some sorts, or construction financing. But typically, there's no cost to the client.
Okay. And for anybody who wants to reach out to you, please let them know, how can they get a hold of you?
You can reach me at my phone number, 416-844-2912. You can reach me at my email, which you'll probably post. You could DM me, or you can reach out to me even on TikTok. So,
I mean, I appreciate your time. Thank you for the information. It's very valuable. And I hope to have you back another time.
I'd love to be back.
Until then, we'll enjoy the weather, have some more talks about real estate, and we'll see you next time.